on the margins of the Africa Climate Summit, which has brought together heads of state of over 15 governments across the continent. This is an important summit, the first one of its kind, and we are alarmed and deeply perturbed by the total ignorance of how our forests, how our parks and water bodies are being used by the same states to pollute, violate human rights, and at the end of the day, dump dead bodies. This is a growing trend in Africa, and in a number of countries, it is supported by the Western governments. When it comes to issues, for example, of fighting terrorism, Western governments are funding African governments to commit extrajudicial killings, and then those bodies are dumped in rivers. Here we are today, not very far from Rivayala, and we have chosen to do this press here because Rivayala is a very, very important water body in this discussion. And we are appealing to the governments of Africa. You must commit at this first African Climate Summit that you shall not allow Africa's forests, Africa's parks, Africa's rivers to be used as dumping sites for bodies of and victims of extrajudicial killings. We have seen in Africa our armies, we have seen in Africa our police, we have seen in Africa the intelligence committing extrajudicial killings, and then they dump those bodies in our water bodies, in our parks and rivers. This must cease immediately. And as they are making recommendations, as they are passing final solutions and action points, each government of Africa must commit that they will cease extrajudicial killings in Africa and further not dump those bodies in those natural habitats. In some cases, we have even seen our animals being fed, these dead bodies. How then can we claim here to be engaging in a debate, in a discussion, to protect our environment, to protect our water bodies, yet these same governments are polluting the environment and our water bodies with, persons that they are responsible of killing? So let us stop the hypocrisy. We are calling on the African Union.
Man of the press, my name is Boniface Ogutwakach, a team leader of Kisumu Peace and Justice Center. I am here today with my colleagues, part of a network of over 100 civil society organizations from across Africa who are speaking on the sidelines, on the margins of the ongoing African Summit to speak about climate change. And we feel that there are issues that are just being whispered on the undertones and are also being muzzled from being discussed in the conversations. As civil society organizations, we are deeply concerned by a trend that we have seen emerging. One, we have noted that part of the natural resources that are being spoken about, the forests, the rivers, the lakes, the parks, have also been used by the same states to commit various human rights violations. Key amongst them, that is very rampant across Africa, is the dumping of bodies. We have noted that in the lakes, for example in Kenya, in Rivayala, we saw that there are a lot of bodies that were dumped. In Congo, there are a lot of bodies and mass graves that are always being exhumed from forests. We have seen that in central Congo, in Tanzania, in Uganda, in South Sudan, in Sudan, there are a lot of mass graves that are always being found in our forests. This is not being discussed in such an important conference. As human rights defenders who speak for the people, for the masses in Africa, we want to urge the heads of state who are there to also ensure that this conversation is included in the topics that are being spoken about. We want them to also call for action to ensure that no more bodies are found in our